Hello, good evening, and welcome to another time of Word Banqueting at Wisdom Feast. Shall just bow down our heads and pray. Father, Lord, we want to thank and bless your name again for tonight. Thank you for another time to come to your feet and learn and partake of the wisdom that is from your word and feast on it fat. Thank you for the way you have been blessing us each time we get on this platform. And we know that today will not be another, and will not be an exception. Lord, I ask for grace upon your word. Lord, speak to our hearts and bless us today as we look into your word to feast on the wisdom that your word provides. Thank you because we leave this place today knowing that we've encountered you and we have partake indeed of the sumptuous feast of wisdom. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Again, praise God and welcome to this edition of Wisdom Feast. By the grace of God, we're still continuing our series. We are not through yet because what we're actually trying to do is that we are looking at each of the sons of Jacob, the blessing pronounced on them. If along the line we need to make a little pause, look at other things and come back to them, we'll do. But for now, we're still looking at each of them because I believe that there's so much that is in each of those pronouncements and for us to learn and also to see how those things play out so that we can understand the fact that words pronounced are powerful. Words are not just empty. They are not just speaking just for the purpose of speaking. It's like programming destiny and lives. And when the word comes with grace and with authority, it lands on people and they carry it on their lives for the rest of their life. And for us to know that that words spoken under inspiration and prophetic words are very powerful. I want to just start today by just sharing a little testimony of someone that spoke to me recently. And about 30 years ago, he said he was in a place, he was pastoring a church. And that day they had a program and he was to leave his house. And he tried to start his car, a Santana, Volkswagen Santana. For many of us that know what a Volkswagen Santana is, I'm sure some people might not know that now, but for those of us that know what a Volkswagen Santana is, he tried to start it and the car wasn't starting. And because they had a very important program, they have a guest speaker coming in from outside the country. He said he took an Okada from his house, abandoned the car, and ran to the church to meet the minister. And he said as he was alighted, the minister also came in and was just about to enter the church. And he turned around and looked at him. And by the prophetic unction on him, he relayed everything that happened, how his car had problem, how he left the car, took a motorbike to be in church because of his zeal for God and wanted to ensure that, look, car or no car must come. And the man released a word. He said he told him, you will never have to buy a car with your money again in life. And when the person was talking to me, he said, it's 30 years now. He has used up to 13 cars, if I am not mistaken, within that period. And not a single one did he buy with his money. Not a single one. In 30 years, because a prophetic word was released. And that word has been following him all through. And the cars that he has used are not just, all those cars that he has used, they are not fairly used, not second-hand, not imported to Kumbo. All of them are new cars, brand new. that runs to millions of naira, and each one of them came with someone buying it and bringing them to him. He does not even initiate any discussion with anybody about it. Because a word was spoken 30 years ago. It's still in ministry today. I won't mention the person's name, but it's someone that's very close to me. But just a few days ago, we were talking, and he just mentioned that. Just for us to realize that words, when they are spoken under unction, under grace, they are pronounced upon people. They run through and they are perpetuated, whether positive wonders of blessing or negative wonders of curses. And that's why we must be very careful about what we say. We also must be careful about what people say to us. And we also must be careful not to invoke or create an atmosphere that will provoke negative words, either spoken or activated when not spoken. Like in the case of someone like Reuben, we know what happened to him. We know Simeon and Levi, what happened, and how Levi was able to break free from the curse, and how Moses had to speak to reverse the pronouncement that was made upon Reuben. So we need to understand that very well and be intentional about the way we use our mouth, what we say from time to time to people that we have authority over, and what people also say to us, so that our destiny are not negatively programmed and become a limitation on our life. Praise God. Last week we started looking at last week or so, I think we started looking at the case of Zebulon, and we were trying to analyze a number of things. We said so many things about Zebulon last week, and I won't like to. Last week I won't want to go over them again because of our time. Now, but one of the things we talked about was the fact that the foundation was that Jacob told Zebulon, he said, "You are a haven of seed, and you will become a haven of what? Of sheep." Naturally, it was positioned by the sea. And of course, we want to look at the history of Zebulun as a tribe, as an ethnic group in Israel. Their location was by the sea. And that what followed that, because you are positioned by that place, you will become. Now, today I would like to just make some progress on what we have discussed last week. We've said so many things. And that's the fact that having of sea is a natural thing. Zebulun didn't do anything about those seas. He was not the one who created the sea. He was just positioned there, divine location located there. God walks in, orchestrated it so that he put him there. So there's nothing about the having of sea that came by reason of his own effort, or what he did, what did not do. There were things God bestowed on him. But having of sheep is a thing he will become. So what are we saying here? Having of sea is a natural creation by God. And it represents what we're endowed with, what we are put into, what came our way, not because of what we did, but because of what God made possible for us. There could be natural gifting and talents. There could be things that we have access to by virtue of our family, where we are born to, or the nation we are born into, or so many things that there is nothing about those things that we can say it is because we actually work for them. They were natural endowments over our lives. But the having of sheep is not a thing that is neither endowed, it's a thing you have to become. So that represents what we have to produce to diligently and through hard work bring about through our creativity, our innovation. Now, the link between the two is that what we are given naturally, we work on it, we do things, we take hold of it, and we leverage it to become. And in doing that, a lot of things come into place. Diligence come in, Learning comes in, innovation comes in. Some others like mentoring, linking up with people. So many things come into play to ensure that, look, the haven of seas is turned into a haven of ships. Because sheep don't just come to a place. There must be things that must be provided in that environment for sheep to begin to do what? To come there. If those things are not provided for, ships wouldn't just come to a place where there is no port, where there are no anchors, where there are no necessary infrastructure that allows a ship to bend. So a haven of sea doesn't just become a haven of ship automatically. It's not a case where you just sleep and wake up and find a haven of ships. No. Yes, you have a haven of sea which was given to you, which you didn't do anything to have. It was a divine provision. It was a creation of God that was just delivered to you. But the haven of sheep is what you become. And the reality of the fact is that the value you get is when the thing becomes a haven of sheep. There are very little that can come your way from just staying by haven of sea. Making it very clear that natural gifting and talents that are not worked on and developed for skill, for capacity to be increased, for competence, for excellence, there's very little that we can get from it. It's good to be talented. It's good to be gifted. But there's limit to what gift and talents can deliver when skill, competence is not added to it. There's a limit to what we can get from it. That's the first thing I would like to say. I want to realize that haven of sheep doesn't just become haven of seas, doesn't just become haven of sheep overnight by wishful thinking. It is worked on diligently, and hard work is what makes it to become a reality. Now, for a few of us that have done a bit of economics, maybe at whatever level, there are two words that I must have heard. They talk about comparative advantage and competitive advantage. Now, what is comparative advantage? Comparative advantage is what you have naturally. Like Nigeria has petroleum. Some states of Nigeria have oil. That's a comparative advantage because it's natural. Now, but competitive advantage are things that you create to give yourself a competitive edge by leveraging on what you have and do some things around it that will put you at an advantage. Let me give you an example. Assuming that two countries have petroleum, they have oil under their soil. Now, and for those two countries, there's a totality of about $20 or $30 billion that those who are interested in exploring oil want to invest. And at the end of it, you discover that 90% goes to one particular country, only 10% goes to the other country. And you might begin to wonder why. Both of them have comparative advantage of oil, which some other countries or nations don't have. But what will determine the direction that the funding, the finance, or the money will flow has to do with competitive advantage they've created by themselves, for themselves, that gives them an edge over the other one beyond just having petroleum. For example, the laws of the two nations will to some extent determine where there is flow. There's a place where you know if you put your money, there are issues that require legal enforcement. It can be easily done. If you need to go to court and get judgment in case you feel that there are some breaches here and there and some infraction, you can get judgment on time. The other place, maybe if you start a case, it will take 20 or 30 years for you to be able to get judgment. You can be sure that becomes an inhibition. Though what they have in terms of natural endowment is the same. But the legal environment they have created has given the one, it makes one to more competitive, and that becomes a competitive advantage over the one that didn't have a very good legal system. Two, another one, because they understand what this thing is, they decide to invest in manpower, capacity development, in the area of skills that are needed to be able to support a thriving petroleum industry within the localities where oil is found in their countries, so that those who are coming there won't have to start importing skilled manpower. The other one just believe that, look, well, we have a population of 200 million, 100 million, whatever it is. When they come, they must employ from our people, and they are not good enough, they should use their money to train them. Now, the one that has developed his own manpower has created a competitive advantage for himself. Apart from the comparative advantage of just having ordinary oil, they have created something more that gives both the oil a competitive advantage over the one that just have ordinary oil and they don't have skilled manpower. So what am I saying? Having of sheep is like a competitive advantage. You create something by yourself, innovative. Having of sea is what you have naturally, we didn't do anything about. And in life, it is the competitive advantage that puts you ahead. It is what you add to what you are given naturally, how you develop it, how you build it, how you create a lot of value around it, and you become it, that puts you ahead. In essence, God was speaking to Zebulun. There are things I will give to you. That's what the prophetic word seems to be saying by Jacob. There are things that you will have naturally, but what will give you an edge in life is what you add to that. If it happens to be the pronouncement and the instruction prophetically given to Zebulun, it's not only to Zebulun, it's to every one of us. So it's for us to discover first, what do I have? And what can I add to it to make it better? And the truth is that all of us have something. But what we do with it in terms of what we add to it is what puts us at an advantage. Like I have in my notes here, and I'll read through it very quickly. There's very little you can get from natural advantage of a haven of seed. If you don't go further by turning into a haven of sheep through creativity and innovation to get more value. This requires hard work, diligence on your part. You won't just sleep and wake up to have a haven of sheep because you are positioned as a haven of seed naturally. You must work at it and work hard to get it done. Now, why this is important is that all of us will understand that all of us have our own haven of sheep that's peculiar to us. And each of those things can give us value. But there's already tendency for us to look down what we have and think what the other person has is better. And that's what I call the grass is greener on the other side mentality. I don't see the value in my own haven of seed. What I am, that is what I can call my difference. What makes peculiar? That's my gifting, that's my endowment. I don't see it as something of much value. I tend to think the reason why the other person is doing better is because of what he has, not what he has done with what he has, which I refuse to do what I have. I always tend to think the grass is greener. That's why you see people at times they are doing something in terms of they have some skills, which if they work on it can give them an advantage and can give them much value, just like another one, another person's skill that they have worked on. But they tend to think that, look, they are disadvantaged. And I've come to realize that there is no success is not limited to any skill that can create value. Success is not limited to any race. Success is not limited to any gender. Success is not limited to any ethnicity. Yes, there could be a bit of inhibition that might require you to work a bit harder than others. Fine, but you can overcome it. If you understand the fact that, look, I am not limited. All I need to do is to do a little bit extra. And that's the truth. For example, when we're in school, you discover that, look, you have different kind of people in terms of their natural ability. There are people who are naturally gifted, very intelligent. If they go to lecture, most of the things that they are taught there, they attend lectures, all they need is to do a little reading and they will excel. There are some that have that, but the little thing they are supposed to do, they don't do it, so they fail. There are people that don't have much of that, but they know that with hard work, they can excel. And they work, and they also outperform those who are naturally gifted. I'll give us a story before I go further on this, so that I can apply it to what we're talking about. When we're in the university, we had this wonderful couple. Now, we're going to call them, I forgot their name, but I know their surname. Now, they're a wonderful couple. They got married, they attended the school University of Benin, and they were senior friends on campus. Now, the sister was actually very, in fact, according to her, her husband just managed to have a second-class lower in the university. She made it 2-1. But there are other areas where the husband also was quite outstanding. Both of them were lecturers. Now, by the time they came to Ife, they were both doing master's degree there. I think whether at Ife, they were doing master's degree. Now, she was naturally very intelligent, and of course, she didn't have much challenges in terms of her education or whatever. So with the little work she needed to do, she was excelling. Her husband knows her limitation. So she attends all lectures. And when they were doing group discussion, she will go on all the group discussion, what I can call diligently, attend all of them. She hardly makes contribution, but she ensured that she absorbed as much as he could absorb. He absorbed as much as he could absorb from those discussion and classes. At the end of his master's program, he had the best result in that class. Just like the wife also excelled. Why he didn't hand out the intelligence of the wife, he made up for it by a little bit of extra in terms of time and hard work. And he was able to level up. What I'm saying is that, look, whatever our gift is, if we work on it the way we should work on it, even if it seems as if initially we have a little bit of disadvantage, supposedly, and supposed seem to have a leverage over us, in the process of time we'll catch up. And that's what we see in life. There are people that came from background where they didn't have so much, and there are other people that came from background where they had so much. The one that came from a background that didn't have so much, work harder and level up, and you overtake those that came from a background that had so much and they were quite careless and wasteful. So don't despise your having of seed. That's peculiar to you. That's your difference. It can produce for you exactly the same like others also have. That's why I said, look, there is this unfortunate tendency to think that grass is always greener on the other side without seeing the green we have on our land, on our own land. The truth is that the grass can be green on every side if we are open to learning on how to make it green like the other side. Your peculiar having of seed, which is your difference, can become a having of sheep as well. It is not restricted to a few sectors, trade, talent, gender, race, etc. Because the profit of the earth is for all and not a few. That's what Ecclesiastes 5:9 tells us. The profit of the earth is for everybody. All of us can profit. In essence, the portion of the earth where you are located, there's profit there for you. And that portion of the earth could be in terms of your skill, in terms of your geographical location, could be in terms of the sector where you are working. Every of those places, if some people are in that area that have been able to excel, and that's what you are naturally gifted, you can also excel from it. You can be outstanding. One time I was looking at a financial success, and I was looking at people that become very successful worldwide, who have become very successful and quite successful financially, maybe very rich, become billionaires, millionaires. I discovered that it is not restricted to any field of endeavor. It's not restricted. You have them in different areas. And the issue is that people tend to think there's a particular area, maybe there's also one person there. that has been outstanding there. They didn't consider they give the person has how outstanding the person is in that area. They now tend to think that, look, that is what the only area to become rich. So what they want to, all of them want to cram themselves into that particular sector, even when they are not as gifted, when they are just average in that area, where the other thing, if they have been able to work on, can give them better returns, better success, financially and otherwise, compared to where they are looking at. Just like everybody wants to be a footballer, thinking that most of the young people want to be a footballer, but thinking that, look, if you make football is the only place where they make success. Not realizing the fact that, look, out of a country, the number of people that make success in football, there's just very few. Like someone was talking about the American Basketball League, that those that make it to the Super Bowl is just a very small percentage. And if millions wants to go in there, it still is pyramidal. And these same people are people that could have done well in other areas if they choose to place a demand upon themselves and discover exactly their uniqueness. Find out what is their own having of seed and make it green. I think that the only place that they can get greener pastures for them to go and become basketballers or become footballers or go into entertainment. Not knowing that the opportunities are limitless. They should not restrict themselves. Praise God. The profit of the art is meant for all. It's not restricted to a few set of people or a few set of area of endeavors or profession, or it's not restricted to a particular race. The other time I was telling someone, I said there's a country, I don't know whether I made mention of this land on this platform. There is a country in Africa that today, that if all of us are there, all of us will have become millionaires, or probably even almost billionaires. But the currency is worth very little in Zimbabwe because of all the needs that have over the years. But from that same country, the few billionaires we have from Africa, one of them is from that country. And it's a billionaire in dollars, in spite of the environment wherein he operated from, where he came from. So, and there are people who are from other countries where, like Americans, where things are better, and they cannot even boast of 1 meal a day. Some of them will attribute to the fact that the color of their skin. Is this man not also of the same color like you? What I'm saying is this: your having of seed, which is your difference, your peculiarity, can produce for you having of sheep if you work hard on how to become it. Learn. Learn when you need to. Build skill, build competency. Go for apprenticeship where you need to go for. Go mentorship. Any learning that you need to learn. Connect to people that you need to. Develop social network. Develop relationships. And all the things that you need to do, put them together. Your having of seed can become a having of sheep. The grass on your own side also can become greener. That people want to come there, rather than you thinking that the grass is always greener on the other side. Praise God. Now, like I said here, the challenge, however, most of the time is what King Solomon said in one of the wise sayings in the book of Proverbs, that there's much food in the tillage of ground of the poor. Proverbs 13:23 tells us, said there's so much tillage so much food in the tillage of the poor. We may not be assessed either due to laziness or ignorance, so the person remains poor in spite of being potentially rich by reason of his land, which has not been plowed. As unplowed land doesn't produce food until it is plowed and planted for it to produce food. Now, Solomon was saying that in the book of Proverbs chapter 13, verse 23, Proverbs 13:23, he said, anytime you see a poor man, the reason why he's poor is that he has an uncultivated land, unplowed land that has so much food. But because he has not plowed it, he has not cultivated that land, he can access that food. In essence, he is poor, though potentially rich. Potential that is not optimized, that is not explored and turned into made active, will remain a potential forever. A potential success is not a success. A potential footballer is not a footballer. A potential doctor is not a doctor. He only has the potential of becoming it. Until he does what it takes to become it, he will remain the way he is. So a mind can be poor and has potential for riches, to become rich. But because he's decided not to cultivate the ground or the land that he has where food is, he will remain in that state of poverty until he does what needs to be done that takes him from the place of being poor to the place of being rich of abundance. So it's not everybody that is poor that can be rich. And the fact remains that everybody can become rich, but not everybody will be rich. Riches are a different level. The basic of riches is for you to be able to have enough to be able to take care of yourself and be able to, all your needs are met. You are not be interested in having so much in excess. But what it will require for that to be is because God gives you a land that has that potential to feed you. But two things, ignorance or laziness or a combination of both, will not allow us to be able to do what? To exploit it so that we can accept what's in there. He said, there's so much poverty, there's so much food in the tillage of the poor. Ask yourself, what is that ground that I had I've not cultivated? That if I cultivate, I can have more food to take care of me and possibly even have a little bit excess to give out to people. Pray that Lord himself will give you understanding in Jesus' precious name. Now, there are a few examples I want to talk about today briefly, practically, so that we can see some other area where we need to, how the issue of having of sheep can apply practically. Although some of the examples I have are just few, because there are different areas where it can also be applied, but I'm going to look at a few, and I'll give us the reason why I'm looking at it. One of the things I've discovered is, like I said, many times people despise what they have. They don't understand that the principle of life to start from where you are and start making progress. God told the king Abraham, he said, from where you are, as far as you can see, but there's a starting point where they are. Many times we are not interested in where we are looking further. But you must start from where you are, begin to make progress to other areas. That's the way it works most of the time. The having of seed is where you are. The having of sheep is what you become ultimately. But you start from that place and begin to grow and become. Now, how does this apply in this case? Now, there are things that God has positioned us strategically, located us. Where God has located us, that if we start with it, we can become anything. It could be in the family where you are born into. Maybe there is a trade that your parents were doing. And probably that's what they used to train you. You benefited from it. They sent you to school with it. You saw how their value they has given to you. Or you are privileged to a position in a particular community where that's what they do. Or you work in an organization where you can see some opportunity for something which you can build up. Or you are privileged for someone to be able to expose you to some things. But many times what we have, we tend to look down on it and believe that there is something better that others are doing. That's why in most cases you discover that people that come from other locations, in Nigeria, for example, you see Lebanese, you see Indians, you see Chinese, they come around and they make a lot of money from Nigeria. And the Nigerians there are not seeing it. I remember a person once told a friend of mine some years, I think Lebanese, he said, look, there's so much money in this your country that many of you are not seeing. Many of them abandon their country and come here. But every Nigerian is not seeing. The same thing applies when some of our people travel to US and some of these developed countries. Among the people of their race, they do far better than those who are born in there. And rather than asking them, what are these people doing that is they are succeeding, that we're not succeeding, they begin to fight them think that they are reason for their poverty. Just like you have a place in South Africa, you have all these xenophobia, whatever it is. They are finding Nigerians that come from Nigeria to the place. Yeah, we know there are some of them that are misbehaving. But there are some that are standing. The opportunities that are there, they can see it. Remember a friend of ours who is a naturalized South African citizen now told us that when she was working, that there are things and opportunities that by policy and every South African can access. The fact that she became a naturalized South African citizen, she saw them and I was able to access them. Some of them were born as South African citizens, they didn't know about them, and they were suffering. And she had an edge over them. So the first thing we need to look at our immediate environment, where I came from, what are the things that have created value for me? And what can I do to start with that and begin to build up? I'll give us a few examples of what I'm saying. Now, I'll start with someone I know very well. It's like a big sister, like to us when I was in Computer Village. I used to have a business there. She was a banker. But her mother was into fish business, selling fish, frozen fish, all these fish that they normally sell around the Jorado, where they have it on the road. And they just cut the thing and on the table they open and slice it and sell to people. That was what the mother used to train her. She went to school. She went to the banking industry. Later on, she left the bank to come and take over that business from her mom. And by the time she came, she put into it what her mother couldn't put into it. She put system, she put structure. Most of people are doing fish selling on the road. She created an office. She put a lot of finesse to what she was doing. What happened? She stood out among all the people selling fishes there. And the trawler owners, the owners of trawlers that go to the high sea and use trawler to be able to do what? To catch a lot of fish. That were looking for people they can relate with and deal with, started relating with her because they saw something in her that she has within that same industry that others didn't have. That was how she turned around the business that her mom was doing and did what? And created something better out of it, using her education, using her knowledge of the banking sector. And I'm sure in the process of that, she was able to attract some finance also. Probably with that, some of them people might even be willing to even give her some maybe credit facility and everything. And she became the person that others in that place that she met were coming to buy from. She didn't just see her mother's fish selling as a thing that, look, after she has sent me to school, I work in the bank. Why should I come here and be selling frozen fish or fresh fish or whatever kind of fish? I want to be a bank. Let me just stay in there. She went to bank. She came back and started that. And by the time she turned another business, and she made so much money from that business. I didn't know that about this information until about 5-6 years ago when I was discussing with her. I just knew that when we were in Computer Village there, she became a major distributor that she has the distributorship for Dell, for HP, and whatever it is. And she has an ICT company there. And she was doing very well. She had a very big location there. I won't mention the name of the organization. Now, but I knew that she was doing something around the Jora or whatever it is. It was just a few years ago. Was it not? Is it about a year ago that she told me this story? So from that same fish business, she set up another business, which was into ICT. She began to import ICT products from different parts of the world. So at the time I was speaking to her, the ICT business that she was doing, she has added over to her younger sister to manage, only to be paying her salary. To ensure her salary doesn't fail. The fish business, she has handed over to her brother who was running, hoping those one will take it further. By that time, she has gone to property. As at that time, she told me within that environment, she has close to 100 shops of her own. that she has property that she had developed, bought, developed, and leased out. And she was into other things. Where did it start from? She started it from the fish business she inherited from her mother. She decided not to see beyond just the fish. She decided to look at what can be done to improve on what her mother did. If this thing could take me to school, if this thing could feed me and feed our family, pay my school fees, buy me clothes, pay our rent, there must be a value in it. Why don't I work on it, improve on that value, and take it up? And that was what she did. And that also battered so many things. That's how to turn having of seed, an example of how to turn having of seed into having of sheep, becoming. By the time she was talking to me about that, I felt because I mismanaged my own opportunity. In fact, I didn't see the big picture. That it was just a thing to start with doesn't mean that you will end there. But it is easier to start what is known, what has created value for you, what you have benefited from, what you have seen work, what you have seen transform your life and that was so many other people. It is easier to start with that and see. I'm not saying this applies to everybody, but there are many of us that this applies to. And rather than seeing what we can do with that to improve on it, we abandon it. We are looking for greener pasture because we think the grass is greener on the other side. We decide to go into things that we know very little about, and we lose money in all of them. And what you are despising, while you are despising, there are people that are coming to that same sector, and they are doing very well, and are doing outstandingly well there. Unfortunately, this big auntie that I'm talking about now, this mother that I'm talking about, this big sister I'm talking about, our children are also making the mistakes some of us are making. She's trying to encourage them, but they don't seem to be interested. They don't understand the fact that they started with this, start with it, doesn't mean that what they will end there. Start with it, make it better. Put structure on it. It can also deliver to you some other thing that you want to do. So that you start with one and you end up having many, like she did. From fish to ICT, from ICT to property, from property to many other things. Because you understood the prison that, look, the having of seed, which is my natural benefit, gifting, natural opportunities I have, where God has placed me. If I use it well, it can become a haven of what? Of sheep. But it's going to require some work to be done. For example, today, before I did this study, I decided to go and look at some things in what do you call it now? AI. Try to look at nations that have turned beaches, which are what is located by the which we call them, they are by the seaside, into a lot of revenue from tourism, for example, because that word having of sheep is just symbolic. It doesn't mean that it's only about having ports where sheep can bath. It's talking about how you can create value from your closeness to the sea. Some people have turned that place to what? To a tourist center. Some people have turned that place by creating a port that is bigger than all the other ports people have around. Some people have turned into different things. So I now went to check what are the countries that have beaches that is attracting a lot of tourists yearly, and they're generating a lot of revenue from it. I saw about 10. Of course, none of them is in Africa. We have beaches all around in Lagos here, but none of them is creating that kind of value, as it's generating that kind of tourist attraction in terms of numbers of people and revenue. And I asked, what's the difference? There are things they did with their own. Some of them decided to create some some maybe hotel hubs. Some of them decided to create some entertainment or whatever it is, another place, and they did different things. I remember the last time when I went to Durban in South Africa, and I went to a place, they have something like, Durban is also by the sea. And a lot of things they did there, some tourists, something we they put in there, which people come there, come and see different things. Now, but our own there, they just left it open. You just come around there just to come and play and everything. When you don't create value around what you have naturally, there's a limit to what it will deliver to you. That's what we are doing. Where they are having millions coming every year, infrastructure are put in place. Access road, a lot of things are put in place to ensure there is safety and security. People don't get drowned anyhow. They have different kinds of games that are being played around that place. And so many are built around that place to attract people to that seaside. So that you don't just think that because it's just by the seaside, people come there naturally. People will come, but if you create value around it, then you get more people. The same principle applies. There's hard work, and that's why I've used this example. What did she do? What her mom had was at the lowest level. She improved on it. Now, if her brother was going to take it further, he should have taken it to a place where he would become a trawler owner, not just buying from the trawlers. And that's the way it should be normally. I don't know what the state of it, the business with her brother, because it could have taken it further. And if you just had a consumption mentality, not a growth mentality, he would just be eating the money from it and the thing will eventually go down in his hand. So that's an example of how people can turn their having of seed into a having of sheep. I hope we are following what I'm saying for those of us who are here tonight, and for those of us who will eventually listen to this and take some learning from it because they couldn't join on live. Now, the second one is a daughter of mine. But I told her that I'm going to mention Akifa. She said, sir, mention my name. Even mention my name. Her name is Ufoma. Ufoma Akinyele. She's based in Ibadan. When I was pastoring a Redeemed Church at Osho, they call Cornerstone. She was my administrator, stroke church accountant. A single lady there, she wasn't married. She didn't just finish her youth service and she was just worshiping there, but very industrious and very diligent. She started working there. At the point in time, she came to me and told me that there's a business that her mom was doing, that she wants to go and probably explore it and try and do something around that area. And of course, I think I gave her the time that she could go, and weekends she can come back and do what she needed to do. I think I gave her a flexibility in that what she was doing. Because I wasn't too sure whether what she was going to do this thing would work out or not. And again, I was a bit concerned. What was kind of work that the mother was doing? Now, the mother had a few art moving equipment like tractors and so. And they used it to do preparation, farm preparation for company. I think at that point in time, I think it was Michelin or so that the mother used to do that thing for. The mother was there from Delta State, but the mother was staying somewhere around Ore. So she said she also wanted to go and do that, maybe whatever. So until I felt that she was a woman, this is a job that will involve going to the bush. And at that point in time, I think we also started having cases of kidnapping and all kind of militant and all kind of it. I was a little bit concerned, but I encouraged her. And she went, she'll go back, come back, she'll go, and gradually, and the first one she did, she made some money from it. And that gave her a lot of encouragement. And because this thing was also not every time, at that point, the thing was not around the clock. So she would just do it for the period. I think it was Michelin that she was working for them, for Michelin. I think after they closed their factory, they say has some plantation, tire plantation, rubber plantation in Nigeria, which they require them to come around and do some work for them. And she'll probably take some time to go and hire some of these tractors, these bulldozers and co from the owners, pay for it, and then use it, pay the people, eventually make some money. That was how she started. From there, she decided to go into it full time. She got married. She started a structure with it. Her husband, a wonderful man, saw what the wife has been doing and decided to team up with her, and together they were running this business. But at the point that she wanted even the husband to take over. Otherwise, I said, look, I can't take over this thing. You have been in this place. You have had the experience more than myself. You know more about it. I would rather work under you. I will support you. That's what it means. You take the lead, and the home I'm the head, but in this one, you are the one who will be the head because you know him more than that. That's where you grow up. And God has blessed that venture so much. The mom is late. She has taken it to a level far higher than her mother. So at the last time, if I'm not mistaken, the number of such art moving equipment that they have, if they do this kind of business between herself and her husband, it's nothing less than 10 to 12. So there are occasions they have that kind of business that they are doing, maybe that they are working for Como today, they are working for maybe another company tomorrow. These people that produce Indomie or whatever it is, because they have big farms, maybe oil plantation, oil palm plantation, rubber plantation, whatever it is. And every year, they want to do something there. They want to maybe remove some areas, clean it up, and also because they need to do some planting. Now she's done for Presco and many others. Because she decided to turn a haven of sheep. The haven of sheep. And she's been a blessing to me also tremendously. From time to time. I didn't even know that I was just then that I said, well, you know, you encouraged me when I wanted to start. You even give me room. You even go and come back. And why I did that, because but it never occurred to me that, look, the person she learned this thing from was her mother. So I was fearing for her because she's female. How would she be able to cope? Maybe it was her mother that did. How did her mother cope? So since she saw her mother do it, in spite of the mother's gender, probably doing it with some other men, that gave her confidence that she also can do the same thing. And thank God you have someone like myself that I encourage her to go ahead. I didn't allow my initial fear. I didn't pump it to her, encourage her. I just pushed her. And I said, well, if the thing didn't work, she can always come back. And she has done very well. And today she's gone to other things, has some farm where she'll begin to, beyond that, she's also beginning to have some farm where she has some, where they're planting some other things here and there. But how did she start? It was the harvest of seeds. What she saw the mother do. She decided to take it further. I'm not sure the mother had more than one of such equipment, maybe up to 2. But the mother passed through. But she has nothing less than 10 to 20. She wants some low loaders where you put all those equipment that used to carry them from different areas. She has them. It's based in the Bible. What is your own having of seed? The third one I also give to us. It's another person that I got to meet, and I'm doing some work with them. They're into farming and whatever it is, commodities here and there, based somewhere in the north. And it's a growing company. But then I spoke to the lead, the CEO. So how did you get into this? He said, I grew up in Ondo State, from Ondo State. Is it Ondo State or Ekiti State? I can't remember. And the community where I grew up, they were into cocoa. And I saw how cocoa transformed the lives of so many people. So she grew up in a commodity locality. I'm not sure whether her parents were so much into it. So that was how she picked up that. And from there, so she did, I think, a bit of engineering also in school or whatever it is, did some other work here and there. Primarily, she gravitated towards commodity, works in organizations that are into commodities, and decided to bring those experience, take it in addition to what was from his background, and I started a business upland that is into that value chain, agri value chain, and going very well. What's the advantage in your background that gives you, that you have to realize and despise what have benefited you and others, but you have refused to leverage? That's your own having of C, meant to produce a having of she. I'm an unfortunate example of one who didn't take advantage of his having of C from my background to create a having of she. I said, I didn't do well there. And each time I look at it, I regret it. But I'm trusting God. Even whatever I can do, I will. But my greater desire is to see that people don't make the mistake I made. It can be applied to start a new business as well, where you start preferably with what you know, or at least you are familiar with, or have been a partaker of, and have benefited from its success. All you now need is the hand-holding or getting the required knowledge and skill. Don't start with the unknown or not familiar with, but known, except where you have access to hand-holding, apprenticeship, and mentoring when it comes to the unknown. But the one you have known, start with it. It is easier for you to make progress with that. And you can make few mistakes. But when you start with the unknown, make sure that, look, you have necessary and holding and mentors that can help you. Or you have an advantage of starting with the known, start with that, they can get to the unknown later, after you have made a success of this. Another area where I think this can apply also has to do with investment, because this day we encourage people to do a lot of investment, want to buy shares, stocks, invest on the capital market, and all kind of things. Yes, I remember some years back, there was a crash in Nigeria. Because of that, some people ran away. But between that period and now, a lot of people have also made money. One of the things I discovered that mistake which people make, which I also made, though I grew up in a family where my dad was very much into investment, shares, and everything, so I learned from home. But there are things I could have asked the old man when he was alive, which I didn't ask. All these stocks that we are buying there, what are the things that even determine where you invest your money in? I never asked him. But I knew it was an opportunity because I know the occasion when they will sell some and make some good money. I remember then when PZ merged with another subsidiary on Nigerian Stock Exchange. One was on Nigerian Stock Exchange, the other wasn't on Nigerian Stock Exchange. They merged together and the price of the shares went up so high. My dad sold a lot and made money from it. Of course, he gets a dividend regularly every year. And that dividend is something with which he was taking care of himself. So I grew up in a family where that was. And let me still tell you, though I've abandoned that for some years, I'm trying to see if I can get something. It's part of the crash of 2007, which I was involved, and we lost a lot of money in the process. Some of the shares were dissolved. Even from what he had, there are still some that is still left today, which I'm trying to just look at. Maybe one or two of my siblings and see what they can recover from it. Imagine if we have taken advantage of it very well. But that's not what I'm talking about today. Now, when I wanted to now start buying myself, I didn't ask him to have learned. I was working in an organization that was doing very well. They were paying my salary. My wife also was working in the organization, they were paying their salary. The company was quoted on a Nigerian Stock Exchange. Was then Bicham, that later become GlaxoSmithKline. When we had little money, we wanted to buy shares. Rather than buying GSK shares, my wife went to buy one company, floated by 1419, called Onwuka High Tech. The money went down the drain. I went and put my money to one company called Alpha Merchant Bank, that the ED then, the MD was a 28-year-old man who collected all our money. And those days, the guy used to fly to London, America, to go and buy his hair. The bank collapsed. The company that was paying my money, maybe my salary, doing very well, that could have used that money to buy a few of their shares. I despised it. So what am I trying to say? You want to invest in shares. Are you of an organization, maybe as a vendor, or as an employee, or as a partner, or you use their product regularly and you pay them money, and they are quoted and they are doing very well? That is where you start putting your money first. Not the one that you don't know what they are doing, and they will tell you that, look, go and buy this share, become multiply by 100 in 1 week. Tell them, how would that happen? What are they doing? Start with the known. That's an example. But I'll tell you, if you want to know more about that, you can discuss with me. We'll talk about that more. Start with the grass on your side and make it green. If you discover others that are greener, learn from there, they made their own green, and apply the same principle to yourself, to your own side. Don't think that the grass is always greener on the other side. It is time for you to discover your having of seed. You can be different from you can be in different form. What is your advantage? For starting, you can leverage to be the having of sheep for yourself and generations to come. Amen. Any questions or comments before we close this evening? Any question or comment? If there is none, shall you bow our heads and pray? Father, Lord, thank you for your word that was shared tonight. I want to pray that, Lord, you will expand it in the heart of as many as we listen to it, so that you can also help them to discover their own having of sheep, so that they could be called to become a having of sheep for them. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Praise God. Once again, I want to appreciate you for being a part of tonight's meeting. And I want to encourage you, if you have been blessed, try and share this with others so that they can also learn from it and be a blessing to many. Tomorrow, I'd like to invite you specially for Worship Festival Quarter 1, 2026. Worship Festival is holding every quarter. It's a time to lift up our hands and worship unto God. I didn't share I don't have the flyer here. I should have shared with us. But tomorrow it's taking place from 3 p.m. The venue is Elevation Church Pistis Hub. And by the grace of God, it will also coincide with the Thanksgiving I'll be having for my 60th birthday. So I look forward to seeing us there, trusting God to bring you down. And you can also invite as many as you can to come and be a part of tomorrow's meeting. Look forward to seeing you there. Good night and God bless.